What's up? Welcome. I am so glad you are here listening and spending time with me today. Release Your Inner Power talks about life, the trenches, the decisions, and the wins that we have now, today, and that have experienced in our past. There are stories, encouragement, tools, and tips to take those next steps to release that inner power and connect with something that is said or someone, a special guest maybe, that will boost your week. I am your host, Shauna B. Here we go. My next guest is Kathryn. She is a wife and a mama of 4 amazing children. Her life has taken so many twists and turns to get to where her happy place is with homesteading, homeschooling, and a home-focused mama who is living her rural mountain dream. Her story is so fun. I cannot wait for you to hear it. And I cannot wait for you to hear about her own podcast called Homespun, where you create the life that you crave. Come and chat with Kathryn. Welcome back to Release Your Inner Power podcast. We have a special guest today named Kathryn, who is going to share her story about her momhood, who she is, and about her podcast today. So I'm excited to have this conversation. Welcome, Kathryn, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Shauna. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes. So tell me about you. Tell me who Kathryn is and a little story for us.
Sure. So I am a wife, a mom of 4. We home educate our kids. We have a bit of a homestead out here in British Columbia. And we just are living our, all 6 of us at home most of the time, dream out here. And that is a relatively recent development in the last couple of years. As a small child, I always knew that all I wanted to be was a mom. But of course, you know, you're supposed to, all the supposed to's kicked in. So, you know, I went and I got a degree and I got a career and I did many of the supposed to's, even though my heart was just with my babies. And every time we added another baby, it was like, it just got that much harder to get out the door. So I was a teacher and I went from full-time to part-time to less part-time to just supply teaching. So like on-call teaching over time. And eventually I just like left teaching altogether because I just wanted to be home with these beautiful creatures that I had created. And eventually that led us into the home educating piece of it. Our eldest 2 did go to like regular brick and mortar school for a little bit, and the younger 2 never did. And then we eventually, another one of my dreams that I just kept pushing my husband into was to get out of the city and to get some land and get some animals. And then I guess about 2.5 years ago now, we finally took that leap, and we are out living rurally with, I don't know, more animals than I can count, because when you get chickens and ducks, that happens, and rabbits. And plus, you know, the inside animals, we just have 1 dog, but and children. But, you know, just all of those things that were always what I wanted to do, what I envisioned my life to be. And over time, I slowly peeled away the layers of the supposed to's till I got to this place here right now.
I love that. I love that. When you say, I love how you said the like what you should be and the supposed to's and all of that, because that's can be a tough place to be in, right? Like you can really get stuck there and not really even realize it. So when you so you had already had some children and then realized just by how you were living your life. Like, tell me more about that. Like, how did you go about like realizing like, no, I want to be like at home and then be with all my kiddos, and then just the transition and what you went through from, you know, working and being in the city and going to homeschool and just being at home and like building that relationship?
Well, I'll start by saying 2 things. Bless my parents' hearts. I think they often look at me and go, I don't know who you are, because I did very little the way I think that they had thought my life would look. And the things that I did are the things that I then eventually peeled away. So as a young child, I remember people would say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'd say a mom. And they'd say, yeah, okay, but what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do for work? You need work. And I would go, my mom was a nurse, so I guess I'll be a nurse. Or, you know, my aunt's a teacher and I like kids, so I'll do that. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things or having a career. It's just not where my heart was. And so I went to teachers college. I got my teaching degree. I became a teacher. And honestly, before I had children, I really liked it. I really do like children and being with children. And I think I was good at it. And when I didn't have pieces of my heart somewhere else, I could pour myself into those other people's children quite happily and quite fully. And it fulfilled me. It really did. And then after my first child was born, I took it for granted that I was going to go back to work full time. And I went back to work pregnant with my second. And when I think that was what like sort of saved me, is that I knew that there was an end date because I knew when she was due. And so I knew I would only be doing it for so long, because I stepped back into the school and I like, it just went, ugh, like this like force on my chest where I was like, this is not where I want to be. And it wasn't really an option at the time. My husband hadn't really gotten his career established yet, so it wasn't really a choice either. So part of me is grateful that my parents were like, you have to, you have to, you have to, because it really did make it so that we had that. I bridged us until he got himself started. But it was never where my heart was. It was never something that I wanted. It was something that I did because everyone said, you need to do this thing. And I went, oh, well, if everyone from every angle is telling me I need to do this thing, it must be the truth. So I did this thing and I got a career. And then, as I said, I just slowly reduced my time because all I ever wanted to be was a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to pour into my kids. And I think part of me choosing teaching really did highlight that for me, because if I did something else where I wasn't caring for someone else's children, I wasn't sending my children somewhere to be cared for while caring for someone else's children, it may have still been felt the same, but it may not have felt quite as like, it honestly felt like a bit of a dagger to the heart, because I was like, why am I dropping my kids off for someone else? Well, I'm watching other people's children. I don't want that. I want to be with mine.
Yeah.
So there's two parts to that question. I think I only answered the first part. What was the other part you asked? I forget. I'm sorry.
It was just the like how you like it sounds like I just like how you worked through it. So it sounds like what you did was you lessened your time with what you, like you said, you were feeling it's not for you. It wasn't in your heart. Like you're saying, I'm dropping my kids off so I can go take care of other kids. Like this, what is happening here? But
Yeah.
you were like following that with lessening your time
Yeah.
doing that. And so it was kind of like you were taking baby steps to doing it, but you were following what you were feeling. So the more time away from that job and with your kids, you're like, yes, this is the right decision. I'm feeling that this is the right decision.
Exactly. And so my first two children are only 19 months apart. So like I said, I went back to work pregnant with the second one. And it wasn't an option. I did have to work in there, but then, I got another paid mat leave, so that bridged a little bit more time. And my husband was a shift worker. So he worked like a continental style shift, if people know what that is, a couple nights on, a couple nights off, then switch to days, couple days on, couple days off sort of thing. So our children, we were really lucky. Actually, they never went to full-time daycare ever, because we had a really flexible home daycare provider always. We didn't always have the same one, but we always found one who was flexible and a really good fit for our family. So they only went when both of us were at work or when he had to sleep. And so I think the most any of them were ever in daycare was 3 days a week, which is still such a blessing. We still were the primary caregivers. More than half of the week was with us in one way or another. And it was still hard because we felt like we were ships passing in the night, because one of us was always working then, it felt like. And then even when I was supply teaching, so I had peeled back all the way to only supply taught days when he was home, and we still felt like ships passing in the night. So although it was what I wanted for my children in the sense that they weren't going to daycare, it wasn't what I wanted for my family as a whole, because my husband and I each took turns having fun with our kids or being with our kids. We didn't feel like a family unit. So while I'm so grateful that his shift work allowed us the flexibility to have one of us home with them almost all the time, it still wasn't the dream. And eventually we got to a point where he was established enough that I could basically fully pull out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's so cool that you get to like that opportunity was there for you to be able to do that, when you knew that that's what you really wanted to do. And it was like you said, to bridge it in order to be able to fulfill that. That's just so good. That's so great that you're able to do that and to be home. So tell me more about, you said your older two went to a brick and mortar school and then you went into homeschooling. Now, was this process something that you decided when you left the city, or was it before you left the city, or was it Like, tell me a little bit more about that. I'm curious about that.
How juicy do you want? So
Juicy if you want to go.
okay. So the truth is my eldest went to school because I hadn't really thought otherwise. I was still teaching and my husband was working, and it was kind of just what you did. It was another one of those you're supposed to. Everyone from every angle says this is what you're supposed to do, so this is what you do. I don't think I questioned it even for a hot second. He went he's an August baby, so he went to we were in Ontario at the time, so he went to junior kindergarten. So some places call it pre-K, some places it's just preschool, but junior kindergarten. So you start when you're 3 or 4 years old, depending on the time of year you're born. He's late August, so he was 4 for less than a week when kindergarten started. And I just remember looking at him thinking, you are little, like this is young. I am not sending you full time, because it was 5 full days a week. So I had a meeting with his teacher and I said to the school, like, I'm not sending him full time. And she said, I totally understand. You don't have to, as long as you pick set days a week and you don't pick and choose from week to week so that I know when to expect him. That's totally fine. I said, that's reasonable. So I think we picked like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday or something. It doesn't really matter, but we picked 3 days a week and he went on those 3 days every week. And he went on those 3 days every week for his entire JK year. And then when he started senior kindergarten, we upped it to Monday to Thursday, and he still took Fridays off. And then it hit Christmas time, and he realized, I don't think he realized when he was in junior kindergarten that other kids went when he was home. I don't think he had any inkling that that was happening. And then he hit Christmas of senior kindergarten, and he went, I want to go every day my friends go. And my heart sank because I was going to lose that 1 day a week with him. And at that time, I was on maternity leave with our fourth baby, so I was home full time. And I went, okay, yeah, I mean, I've put you in school. This is what you want. I can't really, it's a reasonable request based on what we've put in front of you. So fine. So I told the school he'd be there 5 days a week, and he went 5 days a week. But he was still napping on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like he was a young 5-year-old, a young six. Yeah, he was still a young 5-year-old. And so on weekends, he was just an ogre because he was exhausted because he was missing 1 day a week of napping. And it was hard. But I just started questioning. I was like, I think we should pull him out of the school system. I just don't think it's what is best for our family. I don't think it's what's best for him. And my husband said, absolutely not. Only weirdos are homeschooled. That's literally what he said. Only weirdos are homeschooled. And I was like, listen, it's not the 90s anymore. It's actually pretty common for people to homeschool. Like, I think we should think about this. And he was like, no, there's no way my kids are being homeschooled. So I said, okay, there's this conference coming up in a couple of months. It's a homeschool conference. If I buy us tickets, will you go with me? And he looked at me, he goes, it's like we'd have to get a babysitter for the other kids. I said, yeah, I'll ask my parents to watch the kids. He goes, so a day without kids, I'll go to this conference, no problem. Our youngest she was like 3 months old or something. So we had to take her, but the other three hung out with my parents for the day. And it was one of those conferences where there's like 100 seminars and there's like time blocks and you have to pick the 4 you're going to go to or what have you. So together we picked the topics we wanted to go to. And after every one, I was like, so what do you think? And he seemed like he was interested and he was getting into the speakers and everything. So at the end of the day, I said, and he goes, this is like so awesome for other people. And I said, what?
Like what?
This is like, I can totally see why other people would do this. Like, you're right. They're not all weirdos. This is fantastic for other people. Okay. So he was 100% not on board. Come September, our eldest is going into grade 1. Our youngest is going into JK. She's a little bit more mature. She was born earlier in the year. So she is 4.5 almost. And I wanted to send her I think I wanted to send her 4 days a week just because I knew she was ready for 4. And we had moved house. So they went from being walked to school to being bused to school. Mm-hmm. And so the first time we were dropping her brother off on the bus, she was like, why am I not getting on the bus today? And I said, oh, you're going to stay home with me. And she goes, but there's school today. I'm like, I want to go. And again, my heart sank. I went, oh, I just wanted to hang out with you today. Like I wanted you. Okay. So I think I told her she had to stay home that day because I hadn't made a lunch or anything. And then the next week she went 5 days a week. And from then on, and they went all through then. That was grade 1 and junior kindergarten. They went all through that year. And in the summer, I said, I don't want to send them. like, I don't want to send them. And he was still like, yeah, no, I get that. I agree with you. And so he has a sister who homeschools, and he starts talking to her, and he's like, yeah, like, this, that, and the other thing. And she was like, yeah, the school system didn't really serve me. I'm never going to send my kids and all this stuff. And he gets totally on board. And it's like late August, and he goes, no, we have to send them. I was like, so close. We're so close. So we
We're
sent them.
almost there. We're almost there.
Just like baby steps, baby steps. And then I guess it would have been around Christmas. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not feeling good about this. But we kept sending them, we kept sending them. And then COVID hit shortly after that Christmas, and everything went to online school. And I said, I'm not doing online school. I'm pulling them. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, okay, well, we can not do online school, and then when they go back to school, we can send them. And I said, we're not on the same page here, but I'm just gonna let you think what you need to think. And then come September, they went back to the students went back to the building, and we had moved house again to a different school, completely different school district. And he said, did you register them? And I went, no, I didn't. And he was like, well, can you still? I said, well, you can, but I'm not gonna. And that was it. And honestly, probably by week 3 of homeschooling, he looked at me, he was like, why did we ever send them? So he just needed to see it in practice. But
you're like, yes, honey. Why did we ever send them? I don't know. Right? It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know why we did that, but we did.
I love that you said, like the whole COVID thing and they wanted to do online school. I also did that. When they were my littles didn't even start in regular school. They started with homeschool because I'm like, you want me to put a pre-K and a K online? That is bananas crazy. Like that's not even realistic. They have to move too much. There's no way, right? And so
it's so hard to keep their attention when you're face to face and can make them stand up and touch their toes, let alone make them look at a screen.
Right? I know, especially if it's not interesting to them. They're like, what? I don't want to do this, what? Why are you
And they can just leave the room. They're just gonna go over there now, not look at the screen anymore.
Yeah, fighting and the I don't want to and the whole thing. Oh yeah, I did the same thing. I was like, nope, not even registering them. I'm just homeschooling them. And so the first few years I homeschooled them also, just because it was so much easier and more fun. And I got to have more years with them when they're little peanuts and I could, have that time with them and stuff. And it's so much more flexible too when you homeschool them because you can make the schedule what you want. And you know what I mean? You can make it work for your family. It's not like rigid of this and this and this these days and all of that. And it's so much faster. Like the lessons are so much faster that they get more of the day to play and do the things versus all day in there. I know.
Absolutely.
I know.
And I also really like the freedom, the extracurricular freedom, because my daughter does circus silks in the middle of the day on Fridays. If she were in school, I'd either have to pull her for that class or she'd have to go meet. We have family dinner every night because nobody's running off here, there, and everywhere. It's just, I really appreciate that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. My cousin and their family, they also homeschool and they do things of they have horse classes that their girls do, and then the boys have something else that they do, and it's all during the day also. It's not at night. So her nighttime isn't crazy town running around to all the activities and stuff. It's spread out during the day. So it's not so here, there, and everywhere, which is so nice. I'm like, oh wow, that sounds great. Sounds so great.
Yeah.
I love it. So your 2 littles have never not homeschooled, but your older ones. So how did they do with the transition then when when they had was it easier because of COVID maybe? Because they had some of, they were forced to stay at home basically because of COVID. So it kind of took the pressure off of you if you think about it. It's like, sorry, we have to be at home, right? And then they're so used to being at home. Now you're just and we're just going to continue to do it this way. Yeah. Was it just an easier transition?
I think there are 2 things that made it easier. One, they did know when they weren't doing all the things, that also their friends weren't going to the building. So they knew that they weren't missing out on that social time because no one was getting it. And I think that took a lot of pressure off of them and of me. And when everyone was going back to the physical buildings, And that September we had moved school district. So, I mean, who wants to start at a new school and make new friends? And like, that's a hard thing. So the pressure was off them from doing that. I was then like their social coordinator, and I was finding moms who also homeschooled or what have you to meet up and all of that stuff. So that was, I think, also made it easier because when everyone went back to school, they weren't saying, well, can I go back because I miss so and so? We don't live there anymore. That's 3 hours away. We're not going to, if you go, you're not going to see so and so. And we had moved from the city to property by then. We weren't where we are now, but we had moved to property. So, like, who wants to go back to school in a sunny September when our backyard has a pool and a zip line? They don't know, not once did they say, I wish I was sitting in a classroom right now.
Exactly.
They're riding their bikes around on the blacktop while I'm reading Charlotte's Web. Like
Yeah.
they were happy.
Yeah.
So those things
Yeah.
made it, I think, a lot smoother than it could have been.
That's great. Like what perfect timing to do that transition with them, right? And then have it
Totally.
easier and takes the pressure off. And like you said, with moving and everything, that just makes it so much easier because I know that with my oldest, he was in he was in public school till I want to say seventh grade, and then I pulled him to homeschool him for the year, and that like deschooling and like all of that, like just what he's used to, and that was a crazy year.
I feel like deschooling a 12, 13-year-old would be a whole lot more than deschooling a 5-year-old. Like I was not
Yes.
deschooling kids who are like my youngest, well, sorry, the youngest one who went to school. She was only five or six.
Mhm.
She hadn't yet ever sat at a desk really. Like in kindergarten, half the work you do on the carpet or running around.
Mhm.
So she hadn't yet ever experienced that. And she didn't like leaving me. So, oh, I get to be with you? I don't need to go anywhere. It was kind of her attitude. And my eldest, um, he did okay in school. He was able to do all the things he needed to do to succeed. And he didn't like sitting at a desk. And he'll still talk about it. Like he still talks about, his younger brother who sometimes will say things and like, you don't even understand how good you've got it. Like you've never sat at a desk. You know how you like to stand to do math? If you went to school, they wouldn't let you stand to do math. That's not allowed.
I love that. I
So
love that. He's like, you don't know what you missed.
yeah,
This is
you
great.
don't even understand how lucky you are.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge, but I think he liked it better. I think it was just, how many years he was used to doing the thing,
totally.
this way. And then he's like, wait, what? And it was just hard for him to grasp. But eventually he got into his own groove and whatnot. But it was a little bit of a challenge, but you're right. He's 13 and not 5. So it was going to be
And I mean, that's a challenging age when you're not trying to de-school. So
yes, don't I know it?
yeah.
Yes, that's for sure. So you said that you finally moved to some property and you said that you have animals now. Like what was tell me about that. Tell me was it just a gradual you were like getting to where you want to go every time you moved? How did you eventually go from the city to property and all of your animals?
So our first move out of the city, where we didn't stay there very long. Um, it was supposed to be the compromise. It was, but it was everything that you're supposed to want still. And I think that's kind of why it didn't feel like the right fit. Like it was a pretty big house. It was like a 6-bedroom house on 6 acres, and it had stone countertops, and it was all the things you're supposed to want that just aren't us. Like I wish I could show you my house right now. This is far more our speed, and it's not that. So it was all the things you're supposed to want, but it wasn't really us. And it was beautiful, and the yard is beautiful, and the kids had so much fun because we did have about 2.5 acres of bush, and we had a zip line, and we did have an above ground pool, and like there was all these really fun things and these cool things. But we really did want animals, and we were technically within town limits, so we weren't allowed. And we had 3 acres of designated farmland, but we could land lease that to a farmer and it could be farmed. But because our address was in town, we couldn't farm it. So it was like all this red tape. So it was supposed to be the compromise, and it became a stopgap because it wasn't what I wanted, and my husband ended up not loving it as much as he thought he would either. So we left there, and then we got almost 12 and a half acres. And we were here for about 5 months, maybe 6 months, when I found someone who was giving away their flock of chickens because they wanted to travel, and these chickens were still young enough, they were laying, and they were free. And we had this old like fifth wheel style trailer, like a travel trailer that someone had half converted into a chicken coop on the property. And so I said to my husband, I was like, hey, we're going to pick up chickens on Sunday. And he was like, it's Thursday and we don't have a coop. I was like, right, but we have half a coop and that's 4 days. And I think he cursed my name a lot, and he fixed up the chicken coop and we picked up the chickens on that Sunday. And it kind of just like all snowballed from there, because then it was like, okay, now I have chickens, I may as well get ducks. So I found someone who's selling ducks for pretty cheap. Okay, well now I have ducks, I may as well get a goat because I want some milk. And it just kept going. And all of a sudden, probably within like 4 or 5 months, we had a beef cow, and we had some pigs, and we had the chickens, and we had the ducks, and we had the goats, and we had rabbits.
You're like, wait, look at all of these that I have now. That's so funny.
I mean, like I literally, I'm sure my husband probably cursed my name. Like I don't think he still does, but every time I just be like, I found exactly what I want, and it's a really good price because they need to get rid of it. So we're doing this. And he was like, I don't have a pig pen built. I was like, right. But remember all those friends who said they'd be happy to do a work party? Let's do that. And
Like, I have answers. I have answers for this.
I have all the answers. We can't afford a cow, Kathryn. Right. But remember how I said I was going to sell the hot tub? So I'm going to sell the hot tub, and I'm going to use that money to buy the cow. He went, you'll never sell the hot tub for enough to buy the cow. I went, if I can I get the cow? And he said, sure. And I did.
And then you're like, and we have a cow. And he's like, what?
What is happening?
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So, like, how do you do it? How do you take care of all your animals and your kiddos and homeschool and all the things and yourself? Like, how do you do all of that?
Some days really well and some days not. It's the easiest answer.
Yeah.
My husband does the lion's share of the animals. That's just the truth of it. He does the most. The kids each have, well, the older three each have an animal that they're responsible for, more or less. Like one of them takes care of the goats, the food and the water. When it comes to mucking out stalls, because it can get really heavy, and he's 11, but still only 11. So sometimes my husband will do that with him. But, filling feed bags, hauling water, that's all him. And then my one daughter is rabbit. So and again, when it comes to cleaning out the rabbit hutches, often my husband will do that for her or with her. But food and water every day, her responsibility. She's the one who's the first to notice when, they're building a nest. So we know bunnies are coming, what have you. And then my younger son is responsible for filling pig feed buckets. He can't feed the pigs. He can't get it over the fence and what have you. And we used to have a boar. We don't have a boar anymore, but we used to have a boar, and the boar used to scare him. So we didn't like to feed them, but he's responsible for getting it ready so that we just have to then toss it over the side. And our youngest only does what she's told to do and helps someone because she can't. She's both petite, like physically she's tiny, and she's just young. So she's just responsible for helping people. Yeah. But he does the lion's share of all the outside stuff, and then I do the inside stuff for the most part. So our day inside starts with like inside chores, the cleaning, the whatever, breakfast, and then I send them outside to go do their outside stuff. And then they come back in, and we really only do math and language 3 days a week. As far as school goes, they go to an outdoor program 2 days a week. So we don't do any pencil and paper work those days. And there they do a lot of the science, the social studies, like those sorts of things. So I don't worry about that stuff. And then math and language is just the 3 days a week. And I make myself fully available to them until 10 a.m. And if they don't haul their books out by 10 a.m., then I will help them, but they might be, sitting on a stool at the kitchen table or at the kitchen counter while I'm making dinner, or they might be whatever it looks like that day. But I only make myself fully available until 10 a.m. because I found that when I wasn't doing that, I was getting nothing done. Mm-hmm. It was like peanut butter sandwiches for lunch every day because I hadn't had time to do anything. And I wasn't getting any, you mentioned, how do I take care of me? I wasn't getting any me time at all because I felt like I was just chasing 4 different little opinions all day long. Yeah. And they're not on the same schedule. Like I have one who tries to be done by 10 a.m. every day so he can play all day. I have one who would be happy to, do one question every 30 minutes all day long. I have one who will sit 2 days a week and 5 days a week. I can't get him to do anything. So like I can't chase that all the time. I'm just me. So I stopped trying. And I just said, this is what I'm doing. You figure out what works for you. Because I think that's part of the beauty of homeschool is they get to figure out how they learn best, when they learn best, where they learn best. And they know they can come ask me, but maybe you're going to be coming downstairs while I'm painting something and try and stay clean. I don't know. So
Yeah.
that's how that works. And then I found that I also, when I let that piece go, I found that I just mentally had more space to figure out what I needed to get me through the day. So I get up before the kids. I never understood that. I remember working with a kindergarten teacher once who told me she gets up at 4:45 every day. And I looked at her and I went, "You do what?" No, this is before I had kids. I went, "You do what?" She goes, "Yeah, I get up at 4:45 every day because I need an hour and a half to myself before I wake my kids up to get them on their school bus to come to work." I was like, "You're crazy." I remember thinking, like, you are nuts. I do not get up at 4:45, but I do get up before my kids every day because it's just too chaotic otherwise. And the first thing I always do is step outside, even if it's just for 30 seconds, just to get some natural light before I open a screen, before I make breakfast, before I do anything. I find that if I get even just 30 seconds of even very cloudy natural light on my face, I feel 1,000 times better all day long. So if nothing else, that is my like, I have to do that in the morning.
I love that. I like that you said, are you crazy? Because I was the same. When people would tell me they would do that, I'm like, sleep is important, people. What are you doing waking up early? That's crazy.
Yeah.
But when you actually do it and then you get that time for yourself, it changes your entire day. Because I
You
now
just
do that. I now get up before them. I have my whole like morning thing that I do for myself, and then I wake them up. And it seems also just when you wake them up for the day to like do all the things, it's smoother. It's
well,
not
and I mean, this
chaotic. It's
morning,
as chaotic, right? Yeah, it can be a good morning.
it's so much better. Like this morning, I went out, I got my sun on my face, I had my lemon water, I did some stretches, and I had almost completely finished a batch of soup before the first one rolled out of bed because now this is my fault. I don't usually make soup at silly o'clock in the morning, but I forgot that two of my kids were going snowshoeing up a mountain today and they asked for soup in their lunch, and we don't have any leftover soup. We don't have any soup in the fruit cellar. And I was supposed to make it last night and forgot. So I don't usually do something that ambitious before they're up in the morning, but today was the day. But I mean, I had the time and the space and like the mental space to do it because nobody was tugging on my leg, asking for a cuddle, asking to be picked up. Where's my water bottle? That none of that was happening. So I had the mental space to do that at, I don't know, 6 this morning or whatever time it was.
Like how you say silly o'clock. That's great. Yeah,
It's my
and
favorite time of
it's
day.
yeah, yeah. But like I love how you probably got almost done with that soup and you're like, yeah, man, look at all the stuff I just did. And I made soup before the first one rolled out of bed. You're probably just
Right.
like kind of like a little cheering yourself on, like, yeah, I did that. It's gonna be a great day, just from
Feel like a superhero in those
yeah,
days.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that. I love that you get up before them and have that whole thing, and that's how you go outside and get natural light on your face and all of that. That is so key to
Mhm.
have your like ritual of what you do to, fill yourself up prior to taking care of all the things.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's so important is figuring out what fills us up. Because like I personally think everybody can benefit from natural light on their face. Is that available to everyone? Is that like no, everyone can find their thing. Like natural light, lemon water, and a couple of stretches, and I'm good for the day.
Hmm.
5 years ago, if you told me that, I probably wouldn't have even tried it,
Hmm. Hmm.
you know? So
Yeah. But there has to be something to say about it if you're doing it, how good it makes you feel to continue to keep doing it, right? So it's like,
absolutely.
just try it. Just
Just
try
try
it
it or
out.
try something. Try something.
Yeah, try something. Try something that it sounds crazy, but just try something and see how it goes.
Hmm.
I love
Hmm.
it. Well, I do want to talk about your podcast. Tell
Hmm.
us what it's called and what your podcast is all about and what you do with that.
My podcast is called Homespun, Create the Life You Crave, and it is about just that, about home focused living, about how to create safety in the home, about how to be like grounded in the home, coming home to yourself so you can come home for your family, And I know a lot of people when they hear that, they think, oh, so you're talking about like homesteading, you're talking about homeschooling. Sure. And it's really just about being comfortable and safe in your own skin so that you can create this grounded, safe space for those around you. How does that look, feel, taste, and smell, if you will? All the things that make that really, because it's really, in my opinion, it's probably one of the most important and one of the most overlooked things of Western culture right now. We're in such a busy go here, go there, like all the chaos that is our lives, that, you know, home is just somewhere where you toss your shoes at the end of the day. And then it still feels chaotic. If you come home and it's this like your space, whether it's you've got it decorated the way you like, whether it's just the vibe you've created for your family, whatever it happens to be that makes it feel like home for you, it's just so much easier to go and do whatever you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I like that. I like that space that you've created. I love that.
Mm.
That's so good. That's so good. Because you're right. Like this day and age of being busy and doing the things and going to the next thing, and not even when you come home, you just bring it right in. Now I have to do the laundry. I got to do this and da da da. And it's just this whole chaotic space if you set yourself up, like you're saying, if you set yourself up to have more of it to be not and be more like home and for you, you can relax when you come here instead of
Exactly.
bringing it here.
Exactly. And I mean, you're gonna be busy. Like that's lives are busy. I don't think there was ever a time or day and age when lives weren't busy. Busy is relative. It changes with the times, sure. And it can still be like a place of connection, a place of safety, a place of calm, a place of, I mean, you think about when you cuddle in bed with your kids at night, just like the verbal vomit, the download that they have, they're not going to have that if they don't have a safe, comfortable space, right?
Absolutely. Hmm.
So and I really feel like it's so overlooked how important that is.
Yeah. It's a good reminder. That's a good reminder.
Mhm.
Well, I will have the links to listen to your podcast in the show notes.
Thank you.
So
Yeah,
people can go and listen to you and hear all of those lovely gems on your show.
thank
So
you.
tell us, I always like to ask my guests that are on if they would share what their superpower is.
You told me you were going to ask this. So I thought of what I thought my superpower was. And then I was like, I'm going to see what my husband says. So I'm going to tell you mine and then I'm going to tell you his if that's okay.
I love that. Yes, please do.
So mine, I feel like I have a pretty strong intuition. Like I feel like I'm a good judge of people and situations, and I can really kind of get a feel for like, do I want to be here? I used to call it my spidey sense. Like, do I really want to have this conversation with this person? Do I really want to be in this space? Do I really want to leave my kids with these people? Right? I feel like that I've relied on that less than I should have, and more than some people do. And I think I think I've got a pretty strong spidey sense. So I feel like that has served me really well and feels like a superpower. And then my husband, I'm laughing because when I said that to him, he was like, "Oh, you can make food out of anything." And I went, "Okay, elaborate." And he goes, "You could like not go grocery shopping for 3 weeks, and then you put something on the table, and I can't even believe how good it tastes." So he's decided that that's my superpower.
I love that. And I agree. I love the Spidey sense thing. I think that is amazing and awesome. And I think that it's just by your story and you telling your story and sharing it with us and your journey of what you've done. Yes, like that's exactly what I would say. And then I love that he says he says that because it is a thing. It is a thing. I also have a friend who literally can just pull things out of pantry, what have you, and she'll make like this. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want this recipe. And she's like, I don't have it. I'm
The
like,
number of times
what?
people will say, my kids, I shouldn't say people, my kids will say, "Oh, mom, can you make this again?" I'm like, "Absolutely not. I don't even know what's in it."
Yeah,
I'm glad you like it.
yes, that is so cool. I that's like something that I wish to work towards is just to like be able to grab things and create this awesome meal and then have everybody enjoy it. I think it's totally a superpower because not everybody can do that. And some people are like recipes, some people are like, oh, they can't go outside of the box or put their own things in there. And then some people can literally make like meals that are delicious and you're like, what'd you put in here? I don't know.
A lot of love. That's what I always say. Just some
Yeah,
love.
I love that. I love that. I love that so much. Thank you for sharing both of those. I like how you said it, and my husband. I like that. I love it. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing your story and your journey with us. I love how you were so heart-led from the beginning and how you took the steps to get to where you are now and all of the fun things that you did with it and with your kids and your family. I think it's great. So thank you for sharing that with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for giving the space for me, Shauna.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, learned something new, or got some gems to take away that will boost your week. I release a new episode each week, so make sure to click that follow button to not miss what is coming next. If you love the show or want to share a story, send me a quick message. I love hearing from listeners. If you know someone who needs this episode in their life, go ahead and share it with them. I'm sure they would love you for it. If you are looking to connect more, check out the show notes for all the social links, my website. I would love to hear how this episode helped you and what you loved about it. If there's a topic you want to hear about, send that too. All right, ladies, now is the time to release your inner power.